welcome, Kris. It's great to have you. Kris and I have known each other for a good long time from the US TAG and ISO TC 251 meetings. Kris was a real leader in that effort and has increasingly stepped up in roles. And he's recently taken the role, for starting this year, as the head of the US TAG, US Technical Advisory Group, to TC 251. He had previously been the head of delegation. And I had both of those jobs in the past, so I can appreciate the importance of that and the remarkable idea of being that you're representing your country in these efforts is remarkable. So welcome, Kris, and where are you today?
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. It's been a while.
Good to see you. So often we start off by asking our Thursday at 4 guests their origin story. How'd you get into asset management? How did you get from there to where you are today? And all that in like a minute and a half or something. You got that story?
So you can squeeze 40 years to 1 minute, right?
No problem.
Absolutely. That would be very, very easy, right? I don't know. I've been an engineer all my life. Never thought I would get into asset management, or we never called this asset management, right? But somehow, instead of engineering, I ended up with maintenance and reliability. I remember working in Australia in 1990s, and we didn't talk about asset management, but we talk maintenance and reliability. And it somehow really got to me because I could see the importance, what we call maintenance reliability and we call asset management. I could see how big impact it has on the industry, infrastructure, government, and so on. And I remember beginning in 1990s when the ISO 9001 became a big deal in Australia. So we're helping people implement the standard, and somehow they trick it out to what we did. And Jim, you know how active Aussies, right, Australians, and UK guys are in the ISO or TC 251, developing ISO 55000 standard. And I don't know, somehow I got stuck into it with Siemens for last almost 30 years. Yeah. And I like this because I see the value of asset management, absolutely. So that's why I'm really promoting this. And I really enjoy working on the standard and implementation and basically showing the people the value of this. And we talk about this, Jim, many times, the tangible, intangible value. Remember before the ISO 55000 was released, how many discussions we said, what is standard, what is value, tangible, intangible, and so on. And I think since then, I'm really even bigger proponent of the proper asset management and standardizing the processes. When I got transferred from Australia to US, I think it was like 1999. I went to visit some of the plants, and I always thought US is the forefront of technology and everything else, right? Is the leader. And I went to one of the plants and say, holy, sorry for the word, it was like stepping to 19th century. It was amazing. And then you go across the street and you think the 21st century. So you can see how big progress we can make and how big impact asset management can make in any industry, not only industry, but infrastructure, government, run properties and so on.
Yeah. So very interesting. So you worked for Siemens for a long time. What was it like working for an international company, and what kind of opportunities did that bring?
It was quite interesting because at that time Siemens started expanding into outsourced maintenance, right? And they needed expertise. So basically, we develop what Siemens call C manual. Everything in Siemens has to start from SI, okay? The Siemens brand, right?
Yeah.
So I was on the team that developed basically a C manual. It's like a maintenance Bible. I wouldn't call this maintenance from our perspective right now. I would call this a very detailed asset management manual, how to set up a maintenance system, reliability system, asset management system from the top to the bottom, basically. At that time, we coined a term, BBM, business-based maintenance. So basically, was not about maintenance, but the reliability maintenance function, how it should be set up to support business goals. And from that perspective, I would say right now, would call this asset management. The interesting thing was that I got to work on 5 or 6 continents in different industries. I could see now how people around the world are doing the same things in different ways, what the culture is like, what the differences, and what's never ceased to amaze me that if you're talking about East Coast and West Coast in US, everything is different. They do the same thing the same way, but they are different. They think they are different, right? So, but then again, if you go, and Jim, we talk about this during our TC 251 meetings, how the different cultures are around the world, Japan, China, Germany, very detail oriented, and UK and Canada and so on, and US. So what it gave me a different perspective on asset management, what we call right now asset management, and we should. And an interesting experience in different cultures, different industries, and so on. That's basically it, what I could say.
Yeah. It's quite a journey. I know when I got involved, from my background largely in personal property management, both at government contractors and with federal agencies. And we had the opportunity through the NPMA and ASTM to host the US TAG. And we had our meetings, and we started meeting, and there was people that were claimed they were doing asset management, but they were doing something way different than what I was doing. And I was just weird to them because I was an asset management person and I've been doing it for 25 or 30 years, whatever the time. And I understood the maintenance was an important thing, but it was not part of my job description. That was somebody else's job. I was just more involved in the systems. So I wanted to ask we talked about maintenance reliability, we talk about asset management. Mm-hmm. How do you see those fitting together? Or where's the dividing line, or how do you conceptualize and explain those things to others, how they work together?
I think there is no dividing line. I think what we did in the past, like 20 years ago, you can call this asset management right now. Because from my perspective right now, we call this maintenance and the reliability, but you start from the business goals, right? You set up a asset structure, asset indexes, and so on. So when you talk about asset management, remember we talk about this. You're thinking about managing asset and having a software or something like that you know what the asset is. That's what we did. That was the first step. And we didn't talk about asset management. We talk reliability and maintenance. And once we set this up, then we set up processes, how you're managing this. So it is not about maintenance only. It was much, much higher. That's why we coined the term business-based maintenance, because it's not about fixed when it breaks. It was a very sophisticated strategy, developing maintenance plans, developing processes, reliability processes. I still have one slide that is 30 years old. When I showed this now a few months ago to somebody, I said, what do you think, how old it is? 1 year? No more. I said, think about this, 30 years. So that was the concept, okay? And the question is how you implement this. So I think the same is with ISO 55000 asset management standard. This is a concept. This is a concept telling you what systems do you have to have in place in order to extract the maximum value out of the asset. And that's what we did almost 30 years ago. We didn't call this asset management what we call right now, but that's what we did basically. And I could see value at that time. We had a hard time explaining this to people, what it is.
Well said.
Because it was basically going above the head of people. They couldn't understand this. Oh, maintenance is fix this when it breaks, right? Or go lubricate something or clean something. That's all what it was. But we rise the level, 2-3 levels up to show people, maintenance is not a dirty job, cleaning something. It is a function that basically helps you extract the value out of your assets. It's a very important function of business. So it is not a cost center. It is a value add service, basically. That's how we perceived it that time. And I think nothing has changed right now. Maybe we change certain terms, we change few processes, definitely. The technology improved, there's no question about that, because we have software, we have sophisticated things in place that definitely help people. But still, devil is in implementation.
No, I have to mention that, talking about a 30-year-old slide is, I have all the presentations that I've done in the past, and I have them saved and sorted into folders by year within decade.
I don't have this right now. My server is in the storage before I move to a new home. So yeah, but definitely I keep everything. It's amazing when you look at the books. I still have the books, from late 80s, beginning of 90s. And in terms of philosophy, in terms of approach, very little change. Very little change. We have new terms, maybe. We describe this in different way. And absolutely technology is amazing right now, what we can do. We try to do certain things, in 90s. Unfortunately, technology wasn't there. Now it is easy. The cloud services, the fast internet, fast computers, and the SCADA system, and PLC, and condition monitoring, and all the data collection, and artificial intelligence, and machine learning, and so on. It definitely helps. But still, I always say, people, the devil is in implementation, how you implement this and how you execute this. I can give you all the tools and everything, but you have to implement and execute. That's the most important thing.
Nice. Well said. So let's talk about the US tag and TC 251. Before we talk about going forward, let's say, what are your thoughts on the way the US tag has participated in the effort for ISO 55000 today? I mean, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Or, what are your thoughts on it?
Sure, I think we have to go back a little bit to the beginning, right? We are very active US tag and in the working group, and I think we participate a lot in the development of the original ISO 55000 standards. But I think over the last few years, we kind of lapsed a little bit in our effort. But it's not surprising, because the standard was there and was not changing, right? I think we could have done better job promoting this in US. That's from my personal perspective. Right now, we have to step up, because, as you know, Jim, in March, we will have a voting, and we will start on redeveloping the 55001, the most important one, right? So we will have to look for more volunteers from US, more experts to participate in this. So one of my tasks right now, what I'm perceiving as my task personally, is to develop with work group 3 a plan how we can promote US TAC and 55,000 standard, and with help of ALN, I believe you guys doing absolutely great job promoting this. But we need to bring more people into US TAC that actually will participate in the development. We want to make sure that US is well represented in US TAC. And just for information of the participant, we just changed our standard operating procedure. So if somebody wants to join US TAC, the price dropped from $1,000 joining fee to $100, and this $100 cover membership for the first year. And we will try to promote this because we really do need more people, more experts from both the industry, from government, from infrastructure, from power generation, from transportation, and so on. So we'll try to develop a campaign, and I'm pretty sure, Jim, that you will help us on this one, promoting the ISO 55000 start and participation. The more participants we get, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. We have teams working. We have a national asset leadership strategy that we developed last year and have updated this year to promote a national approach in the U.S. to asset management. And this year we added sector asset leadership strategies. So, that lines up very well with the efforts that we have going on. Water industry and federal law enforcement, interestingly, and several others. And we'll have to get a write-up on our, in our newsletter or on our webpage, or that we can send out about the opportunity to join the US TAG. In that regard, you can join the US TAG and sort of hear what's going on and contribute. But then the big dividing line had always been people that were able to be delegates and go to these international meetings. And I just had amazing experiences going to lots of cool places. But the meetings themselves were just remarkable. It was like a lesson in international diplomacy. Which one of the reasons I think you're such an excellent choice to head it, because you have that experience, dealing with people from different cultures and understanding where they're coming from. Is just a great opportunity. The last year has been a little screwy because instead of international in-person meetings, we've had a lot of Zoom meetings, which has its benefit, but it's not like being there in person. Can you maybe talk a little bit about relationships you've developed, or how those international meetings work for delegates and what that's like?
Sure. I think I agree with you. The Zoom meeting, WebEx, and things like that are great for certain things. But as you know, it's nothing beats the in-person, face-to-face meeting. So we had a number of meetings, usually once or twice a year, when the standard is being developed and so on. So people meet and talk, and they have face-to-face meeting. And what you can do, basically, then you can understand the different culture. I think one of the most interesting things I learned is that what we understand in English, we think is very simple and very clear, right? People don't understand. They cannot translate this to different languages. Remember, Jim, how Japanese were objective few things, and Germans or Frenches and so on. So I think it's very important to meet face to face. You meet, you develop relationship. You know the people, they know you, they can approach you, and it's amazing experience. I think it is very, very important because you cannot develop this, you cannot explain something in email. If you are not face-to-face meeting, it doesn't really work very well. And then after the meeting at the night, right, there's nothing wrong with a glass of wine or a beer and talk about a few things, right?
If we have shared a few beers, yes, sir. Yes, we have.
Yeah, we did. We did, yes. But I think it's very, very important, the socializing and so on, because as as everywhere, it's much easier to reach out to somebody if you met somebody, right? And talk to person, and you experience this. So I need everybody who could join this and could participate in international meeting. I know that now is a little difficult because of COVID situation, travel restriction, and it is causing a headache, right? But I would encourage everybody. And as you know, Jim, we never put restriction on US delegation. And I don't remember an event that US delegation wasn't the largest one, right?
Yeah,
We always said the largest one.
and I should say that if you join the US TAG, you can become a delegate. There's an official approval process,
Yeah.
but we've never said no to anybody that wants to be a delegate that's a member of the US TAG.
That's correct.
There used to be some funding. Now I think there's some very limited funding available through the US TAG. So you or your organization need to cover your travel expenses. I think the meeting that's scheduled, which is, I haven't gone to the last couple international meetings, but the next one's in St. Petersburg, Russia, I think scheduled for May or June or something. And I got, God, would I love to go to St. Petersburg, Russia.
It's absolutely beautiful place. I was out there once, and it's a very beautiful historical place. It looks apparently even better right now when I was last time out there. And you have the white nights. I remember being on the beach out there at 1 a.m. reading a newspaper. It's amazing. It's not as light like in Alaska, but it's amazing place. Yes. So that's supposed to be next meeting if everything goes okay. But remember, COVID-19 may change the plans, to be honest. Yeah.
Certainly. Yeah.
So I just want to break in here before our 30 minutes are up and thank you guys for this discussion as it's gone so far. And before I ask a question from the audience, I just want to take a minute in case people missed it at the start, just to thank our organizational members for their continuing support of ALN Thursday at 4 and all the things that the Asset Leadership Network does. And especially thank the Andrew James Advisory Group for sponsoring this month, January 2021 of ALN Thursday at 4. And with that, Cecilia had a question and I wanted to see if she was willing to ask it live. Otherwise, I will ask it for her. Cecilia.
Okay, so you're asking me to unmute. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Thank you very much for sharing the work you're doing with TAG. I'm just curious, Kris, as you mentioned Siemens and their branding of everything and the way they communicate. I was wondering, how does TAG use ISO 55000 to promote culture as an asset? Both culture, communication, and inclusion. I'm going to ask all three of those as something, as you're looking at what you're doing going forward with 55001. I'm just curious on enhancements that might be being made to look at those intangible things even more so, to incorporate them so that you can get the tangible done well.
Yeah, I understand. I'm maybe Jim can help me with this one, but we didn't talk about we talk about culture as a means of the different countries got different culture in asset management. We have somehow agree with that. I don't think we ever talk about inclusion. I understand what you're saying, but it's kind of outside of, I think, ISO 55000 standard right now.
But is it something that you might contemplate including, because it is not truly outside of ISO 55001 since stakeholder involvement in 4.2 and 4.1 with leadership and alignment.
Yeah.
It does not
Mhm.
be explicit about it. And I think one of the things that we are finding now, especially when you look at what is going on in the world, not just here in America, but all over the world, is that being explicit and intentional about what we say and being very clear on things like stakeholder involvement, being inclusive, being cultural. And when I say cultural, I mean that's the company or the organization's culture, as well as the cultures of all the stakeholders as well, and those kind of contemplations. It gets to be a little nebulous, I know, or a little maybe difficult to grasp, but just reminders that that needs to be done.
I understand your point, Cecilia. I think it's a very good point. Maybe you can send me an email and a few things. I'm open, to email. We can even talk about this, and I can table this as a US TAC input to ISO 55000.
Oh, that would be great.
Yes, and you talk about Siemens. Siemens is an old German company. It used to be run by all Germans, all men. In the last 10 years, I know that. I've been with Siemens for 27 years, right? And last 10 years, maybe a little bit more, a number of things have changed. The top management decided we are international company. And they started forcing inclusion. They brought a number of people from around the world to Germany, and they got rid of German managers locally in different countries. So right now they have the local managers, and the inclusion and so on is a big, big topic in Siemens. You can see in US and everywhere else, I was actually surprised last 5 years how many women are in management and in even the board. It was basically pushed from the top down. So I think it's absolutely important topic to talk. I truly believe, in inclusion and diversity. I'm also not American. You can hear this, right?
Yes, I was trying to figure out where you're from, Kris, and I was like, no, he's not Turkish. What is he? But I just say we will share with you, because Jim Dieter has really spurred us to do a working task force on equity, asset leadership networks equity program, and we have been focusing in on how to incorporate equity, which is already there, but how to highlight it a little bit better for people to create a template for that. So we'll share that with you.
I would really value your input, Cecilia. Jim's got all my data, he's got my phone number, he's got my email address. He can share this with you. I have no issue with that.
Okay, thank you, Danka. But where are you actually from?
Poland.
Polish, okay, because I was trying to figure out Goly and the accents I couldn't quite get. Okay.
But,
dziękuję then.
Yeah, dziękuję. But one of my passport is Australian too, so and Jim always laugh about this. Yeah, I've got 3 passports basically right now.
Nice.
So
thank you.
I can always hide somewhere, right?
Cecilia, thank you so much for your question, and I'm sorry I didn't promote you to a panelist so we could see your face, so that everyone can see your face. But thank you so much for your participation, and I have posted Kris's email in the comment or the chat, so you can see it there. And if you have trouble finding it, certainly email me and I can get it to you. And now we have run overtime, and so I just want to make it clear that if anyone has other obligations, they can certainly leave. And one last plug for the Andrew James Advisory Group, our sponsor for this month. They are having a A55K professional certification course starting February 8th and ending February 19th. So if anyone's interested in that, sign up now. And I believe, Kris, if you have time for one more question, we have one more question for you.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. So someone has asked, what are the plans, the 2021 plans for the U.S. Technical Advisory Group? If you could speak to that.
Oh, okay. Right now we're working on and by the end of January, end of February, I would say, we'll have a communication plan. That's one thing. But we have to wait till sometimes March to talk about development of the new version of ISO 55000. Actually, in March, there will be a chairman meetings, chairman advisory board meeting, and chairman, I mean TC 251. And it will be decided how we are going to proceed with development of the standard. So after that, we will have to develop our own roadmap, how we can support this, what we need to do internally in US. Definitely, I want more members and I want more input from the members, from various industries, government institution, states and so on, municipalities and so on. That's my goal. But the more detailed plan will be developed sometimes towards the end of March once we get, the plan for TC 251.
Hey, Kris, could you give people an idea of the timeline? If people are thinking, well, why should I start on 55,000 now if they're going to revise it? And it's going to be a few years, right?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The revision will take probably 2-3 years. That would be the timeline. But the revision, I don't believe will be a big one. It's only slight enhancement. So if somebody wants to work on ISO 55000 right now, I think they should. They cannot wait for later revision because you're basically wasting, 2-3 years time. You want to have benefits right now quickly, right? So once the new standard is released, I don't believe it will take too much effort to basically tweak your processes. At least that's the plan.
Very good. Any
Awesome.
other questions, Nick?
Well, yeah, the only one was about how people can get involved helping revising the standards, and you kind of asked that.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's great. It's really good to have a diverse group of people involved. I just can't tell you, to put a different light on it. When I got involved in this, I thought I knew about asset management, and my analogy was I had blinders on, and they kept coming off, and I'd go, "Oh, that's asset management." And then I go, "Oh, that's asset management," and it's stunning. As Cecilia points out, there's another way to open our eyes and things to consider as assets, and how does this apply, and how might that be included, in these discussions. So it's a great opportunity, and as we literally are the experts, and I mean all of us on this call. And people around the world, and getting to work with people from around the world in asset management. I mean, it is an education. It's stunning. I would not be here now if not for all that. The ALN is a direct outgrowth of all those efforts. So, all right, I got off on a rant speech, but Kris, thank you so much. Any closing words you'd like to offer?
Just one. Get involved. Get involved. Participate. We need input, and we need to make sure that US voice is heard.